Nigel here with the Drive Wire, and this is the Toyota Mirai. It's the second edition that's come out. The first one kind of looked like a Prius. It looked like it'd been produced using origami. It was a particularly ugly vehicle. This one, and I shall stand back, looks absolutely fantastic. Now, what's weird about this car is, what's wacky about this car, and what's wonderful about this car, we'll be going into pretty shortly, but the main thing is it's powered by hydrogen. That's the fuel that it uses. Obviously it's an electric car, so it's generally quiet, and it's something that Toyota and Honda have been continuing to use. Fuel cell vehicles have sort of fallen by the wayside. Everyone's driving an electric car or a gas car. I think it looks absolutely fantastic from all angles, except from the back, because bizarrely it has fake exhaust outlets. So that's a bit weird. So the way it works is there is a sort of a tailpipe, but it's underneath the car, and it just basically, the byproduct of hydrogen in a fuel cell is just water. So it pees water out of the bottom. There's also a button on the dash, so if you want to vent it that way, you can. I don't know why, because it does it automatically. I guess if it's not doing it for any reason, you should probably get its prostate checked. Looks good from the front too. It's got a slightly futuristic look with these sort of narrow headlights here. A little bit of a Lexus-inspired grille. There's a few cons. It's not cheap. This one comes in at a shade under $67,000. That's a lot of money for a car where the biggest problem it has is the availability of hydrogen. You fill it up very much like you do a regular car, but there's a serious shortage of these types of gas stations or hydrogen stations. The main problem here in San Diego is there's only one, and it's 19 miles away, so anxiety is an everyday issue. And so far it seems like the range indicator says I have 300 miles or so when it's full. It's not bad, but it means that I can't just go over to my local Shell or Chevron and fill it up, because they don't have any hydrogen. Filling up is actually relatively simple. You simply pay, pull this off here at the pump, and then the nozzle goes on right there. You'll hear a click as it connects to this piece. Obviously, because hydrogen is under such high pressure, it's got to be clamped on there pretty firmly. Once it's finished, it takes around 5 minutes to fill up. Once it's finished, you sort of twist it off. Occasionally this will get frozen and stick. Once it's off, put the cap back on, and you're away. In order to incentivize owners to buy this, and I got a feeling that this is sort of a test bed for Toyota. They don't expect to sell many. They haven't sold many. But of those that have, they give $15,000 worth of hydrogen fuel away. So you pay $67,000, but your fuel is free for quite some time. Now, fuel is not cheap. It's about a little over $16 per kilo, and this car takes 5 kilos. You're looking at, from empty, about an $80 to $90 fill up. It's not cheap, definitely not cheap. So the weirdness continues under here. Obviously this isn't a regular engine. This is the hydrogen powered fuel cell. So the hydrogen in the tanks in the rear, one is behind the rear seat, the other one is sort of along where the transmission tunnel would be. That sends hydrogen into this fuel cell. This fuel cell converts it into electricity, and that powers not only the electric motors, but a 1.7 kilowatt battery that is also available for ancillaries such as lighting, etc. in the vehicle. Now this has 182 horsepower, 221 foot-pounds, and obviously there's no transmission. It's just a single speed. And it gets from 0 to 60 in around 7.6 seconds. It's been tested by a few other motoring journals out there, and they agree that around 7.5 seconds is what it will do. It definitely feels around there. Toyota seems to weirdly claim that it'll do 0 to 60 in 9.2 seconds. That's absolute rubbish. In the back, I have to say these seats are supremely comfortable. They're soft. They're vegan leather. That's not upset anybody. Get these nice little blinds to keep the sun out. It's got a JBL system that has speakers in the back as well. It's also got a couple of USBs and some vents. It also has this huge, as I mentioned, transmission tunnel, which isn't a transmission tunnel, it's one of the fuel tanks. Because of its slightly sloping rear roof line, what they've done is they've sculpted out this section, so and I'm small, have plenty of room for my head, but anybody much bigger than me would have a problem. Legroom is adequate too, although there's not much room for your feet under the seats. If you happen to have to sit here, there's a third seat belt, then it's a major problem. Definitely a visit to the chiropractor. There's just no way that you could sit here. A child maybe. Anyway, let me move because that's quite uncomfortable. Okay, so in the center, you get some cubby space, quite generous. You get a couple of cup holders, which, the nifty little mechanism right there. And then you also, if you hit this power button, get basically a way to turn on the heated and cooled seats. Heated and cooled in the back, heated and cooled in the front. So definitely not short of amenities, but not the best place to spend an awful lot of time. So what's it like in the front? Wow, it is very nice indeed. Very Lexus-like, super comfortable seats, heated, cooled, multi-way power. They got some adjustable backrest for the lumbar support for the driver, not for the passenger. The center console is really big. It's got your two cup holders, a nice cubby space with a couple of regular USBs, and then your old-fashioned 12-volt in the middle, as well as this charging pad for your phone, which seems to work pretty well even through my case, so that's a pretty good test. In the center console, which is sort of in a way angled slightly away from the driver, you've got this, familiar with Prius owners, this little shifter here, reverse, neutral, D, and then your park is a push of a button right there. You got park assist system, and then this is where the drive modes are. You got eco, normal, and sport, neither of which do a lot for the car except use more hydrogen. You got your parking brake, hill assist hold, etc. Nothing really here. It's all just sort of piano black. This is your AC, HVAC controls, etc. And then the touchscreen is classic Lexus. It sort of works. The only real super irritant is no physical volume button, so you have to push volume minus or to make the volume come on. That's really annoying. Hit menu. This is really important. So you've got things where you can pair your phone, set up maps, etc. But apps is where you need to go to control not only your Wi-Fi but your fuel. So this is where it says my nearest one. There aren't any others closer. 19 miles away, and it's currently offline. You click into it and it tells you when the station was last updated, including this really annoying message that says station is offline for a mechanical issue. This was on 12/3 at 5:30 a.m. So yeah, it's not good. I've said it a couple of times now, it is not good. Ahead of the driver, you get a digital dash that shows you what I'm averaging, which is 47 mpge. I've had to do that with a very light foot. On the right, it shows you your shift position. We're currently in park. Right here, it shows you how much range you have, 115 miles, which is essentially less than half a tank. One cool feature that I really like is this view button, okay, next to traction control and weirdly snow. No one's ever going to take this car in snow. But if you click on the view button, you get a surround camera that rotates around the car and checks out what's going on. This is a cool feature. And then it shows you the top of the car. I really like that. Okay, so let's take it for a drive. Quick update. The only hydrogen station available in San Diego, which is almost 20 miles away from where I live, has been offline for 3 days now. So me and the other people that have purchased a hydrogen vehicle have not been able to fill up. So I have a range right now of 121 miles. So I have a little bit to take it for a test drive, see how it is, but it's a little disappointing that they haven't been able to fix it. According to the website for True Zero, there is hydrogen available, but the machine is broken. That's not a good situation. Now, I know that LA has more stations than San Diego, so that at least they have a backup. But if you're going to sell this car in a sort of a major metropolitan area like San Diego, you need to provide the fuel for the vehicle. But that's the bad news. The good news is that this thing drives like a very quiet Lexus LS, and it's very nice. It's not quick like a Lexus LS that has a twin turbo 6. It's not quick like a Model S or a Model 3 or a Model Y. None of the Teslas. It's not going to achieve that. It is a single motor, which is driving just the rear wheels. I think if it had a little bit more power, i.e. a bigger motor, it might be quite entertaining. I'm averaging 47 mpge. The sticker says it'll average 65 mpg. I'm not getting anywhere near that now because of because of a lot of range anxiety. I've been driving a lot slower than I normally would. If I put my foot in it all the time, switch it to either normal or sport mode, then I'm just going to flat run out. And I don't know what Toyota's going to do about getting the car back to their base on Monday. Definitely a ton of pros and cons. The pros are definitely it's super comfortable. These seats are really nice. They are vegan leather, which is not leather. All the controls fall easy to hand. It's a very nice place to be. Heated and cooled seats. If you start using the heated seats too much, you use up the hydrogen, which is essentially creating the electricity in the fuel cell. And so, yeah, just like an electric vehicle, you do worry about range. Okay, so we're going to join the freeway here. I'm going to put it into sports mode, and I'm hoping that you'll hear the weird noise. So when I switch it to normal, you hear that. When I hit it to sport, it's these weird noises. Now, I'll be honest, I've driven it in both sport, normal, and eco. I've driven it in eco the most, and because I'm lacking in H, I need more H. In normal mode, if it's going to make a noise, then that's the better of the two. Sport mode just sounds weird. It sort of sounds like a spaceship. So when I take off from these lights, I will show you what it sounds like. All right, here we go. How strange is that? It's sort of a cross between like a spaceship and a jet engine, a muffled jet engine taking off. It's bizarre. So when you switch it to normal mode, makes that weird noise. It's a slightly different sound. I actually prefer the normal mode. It sounds like air being pushed through a pipe. Anyway, I'm going to put it back into eco now, because I'm down to 118 miles now. You know, as I said, it's like a big Lexus LS. The steering's pretty good. The fact that it doesn't have batteries means it weighs a little bit less, but it isn't nimble. The suspension is very soft. I took it out on some sort of back roads, and it leans. It's got a lean to it. It's sort of like a big old Cadillac, but it's unbelievably comfortable. So we'll accelerate over here. It's definitely got some speed to it. I mean, you know, there's definitely enough speed to get out of the way. We're doing like 72 miles an hour right here. But yeah, that suspension is unbelievably comfortable. Even when you put it in sport mode, it's pretty soft. I mean, I can sort of see why someone would buy one of these, but you know, you just got to have the fuel. I hate to say it, it's there's no fuel, and the fuel tanks in this, you know, are quite small. So you could, in theory, make them bigger and add more power. If there was hydrogen in every gas station, I'd be on board with this technology. So performance is brisk, gentle. It doesn't really push you in the back, but it gets where you need to be. Steering is decently precise. It's running on some pretty huge, I think they're 19-inch rims, but these Dunlop run flats are very quiet. Now the brakes are quite weird in that they don't feel like they're going to stop you. Initial push, I've got used to them now. If you want to come to a complete halt, you have to push quite firmly. What it doesn't have is any kind of regenerative braking. It does have a small 1.7 kilowatt battery, but it's not really, it's not enough. The hydrogen fuels that battery via the fuel cell. I do like this car. I really wish that I'd been able to get more fuel, and I would have really enjoyed driving it a lot more than I have been able to. I almost feel like I've missed out. I waited for this car for a while. It was a different event. It's going to another event on Monday, and it's just like, I didn't get a chance to really drive it. And it's a shame. I mean, versus the original one of these, which looked like a just ugly Prius weirdness, this one is a huge improvement. But would I buy one? No. Only if there was fuel to buy. Yeah, I would buy one, but there isn't. So really, yeah, it's a bit of a lame duck. It's a huge shame. Love the car, but wouldn't buy it. That's bizarre. I mean, it's a bizarre conclusion to come to, because Lexus is obviously, or rather Toyota, I should say, have put money into this. They have a fuel cell, hydrogen-powered race series in Japan. There's talk of the GR Yaris being hydrogen-powered. So I sort of believe that the technology can work. But you know, hydrogen is one of those things that you can't really make at home, which is why battery electric vehicles have taken on and been so successful, because you can simply plug them in at home. You can get a 240-volt charger and plug them in at home. So if you live in LA, yeah, I would say go buy one. I mean, there's like 12 or 13 stations up there. That's probably enough to overcome this range anxiety. You go to one, it's empty or offline, so you go to another one. Not too bad. Here in San Diego, though, geez, the people that bought them, I feel really sorry for them. They got themselves a really nice car that's going to spend time as a driveway ornament or a garage ornament. It's just going to sit there like this has sat for like almost 3 days, and I haven't been able to use it. All right, so once again, it's been an odd week with this car, a short week, unfortunately, but thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like. Hey, if anybody out there has one of these, let me know if you come to the same conclusion as I did. Did you feel it was a mistake to buy this car? I think I would. You know, so Toyota really needs to sort itself out from a fuel perspective. You can't buy this car anywhere other than California just because there's no fuel. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate it once again. Out.